A man with an angry look approached us when we managed to arrive at our destination somehow. It was the father of my fiancée. He was staring at the old pickup truck we had just hopped out of with a suspicious gaze. Realizing that I was his daughter's fiancé, he suddenly started yelling at me. "You are too late. I'll not let my daughter get married to a po person like you who can't even be on time. Get out of here." But the moment he took a good look at my face, he turned pale. "My name is Kevin Bartlett. I come from a dairy farming family, a tradition that traces back to my great-grandfather's time. We kept sheep and cows, and ever since I could remember, I would help my parents with their work. My parents started their work early in the morning, so the only time I could help was after school, once I got home. From feeding the animals, to dealing with manure and washing their bodies, the tasks were arduous, but rewarding. My father was proud of his job. We can live here because we have this land. It's our duty to protect it." Hearing those words, I naturally accepted that I would take over the family business someday. In the meantime, we often had visitors. My parents were quite social, so a variety of people came over. Among those was an uncle. He was my father's brother. Unlike my father, my uncle had no interest in dairy farming and moved out on his own after high school. He started a company with his college friends, and it has since grown to be listed on the NICE. I didn't really like my uncle's somewhat arrogant demeanor. So when he visited, I would give him a quick greeting and then go hang out with the cows and sheep. My uncle had 2 daughters. We used to play together a lot. The eldest one was 3 years older than me, and the younger one was the same age as me. However, as they grew older, the elder daughter stopped coming to the barn. She disliked the smell of cow and sheep manure. I remember her holding her nose. Then one day, she finally couldn't stand it any longer and threw up. "I can't stand this place." It seems this became a trauma for her, and she stopped coming near the barn and eventually stopped visiting our house altogether. Instead, the younger daughter would come to play at our house, seemingly unfazed by anything. Her name was Emma. Emma had several after-school activities. One of them was horse riding. She liked interacting with animals and even seemed to enjoy helping take care of the cows and sheep. This one has grown since last time, hasn't it? Emma, who was always keen on noticing animal growth and mood changes, would point out. Soon, we spent more time playing together, as Emma was interested in animals. However, it seemed her father didn't appreciate it. One day, a tearful Emma came to my home. Apparently, her father had sternly told her to concentrate on her after-school activities. He said I shouldn't come to your house anymore. I remember the time Emma had returned from the barn all covered in mud, her father grimacing terribly. As she approached him, he stepped back and shouted, "Go wash off right now. I won't let you in the car until you're clean." He seemed genuinely repulsed, so I guessed it was true that he had told her off. I thought we wouldn't be able to play together anymore. Emma was sobbing as she explained what had happened, so I tried to comfort her. "It's all right. It's not like we'll be forever apart. We'll definitely meet again." "Do you really think we'll meet again?" I put on a brave face and nodded. After that, my mother dropped Emma off at her house. All I could do was watch them drive away. From that day forward, Emma and I didn't meet again. Time passed, and I had moved on to study at an agricultural university. The intention to take over my parents' business was always present as I grew up. Though our farm was a dairy farm, we were by no means wealthy. So, I relied on scholarships to go to the university. I had studied dairy farming since I was a high school student, and my life was filled with studies even when I was a university student. I was part of a club, but that was mainly a gathering for taking care of the animals at the university. Unlike me, who was engrossed in dairy farming, my classmates were out partying and chasing relationships. I felt lonely just spending my youth studying. I lived alone to attend university. I didn't want to rely on my parents for all the rent, so I worked part-time jobs after classes. Most of the money I earned from these jobs went to paying rent. My life was devoid of any youthful adventures. I wish I had a girlfriend at least. That's when I had an unexpected encounter. There was a new member joined in our club. She looked graceful. I didn't know such a person was in our university. She seemed more suited to be a receptionist at a big company than getting dirty and sweaty with us. The club held a small welcoming party for her. We just had a small gathering in the club room that's been assigned to us, though. At first sight, I thought she was beautiful. There was something familiar about her, but since she didn't seem to recognize me either, we just introduced ourselves. She said her last name was Bartlett, which is the same as my last name. It's a rare thing to have the same last name, isn't it? I'd never met anyone with the same last name outside of my relatives. I felt surprised. We had snacks and drinks, and started asking her whatever questions came to mind. Hey, why did you decide to join our club? I've always loved interacting with animals and was interested, but I never really had the opportunity. You seem very graceful. Are you by any chance from a very wealthy family? My father runs a business, but it's more of a small to medium company, nothing too grand. No way, so you're a CEO's daughter. Alrighty, question time. Do you have a boyfriend? That's a bit too personal, don't you think? That's typical of you guys. Even though I was part of the group, I enjoyed just listening to everyone's conversations. Ms. Bartlett's responses were well composed, and I could sense her sophistication. When asked intrusive questions, she blushed and seemed like the typical sheltered girl. I thought this and happened to glance at her, and she was looking at me. After our eyes met for a moment, we both quickly looked away. Did I do something weird? Even though no one was watching, I felt strangely embarrassed. It certainly felt like she was looking at me, but maybe it was just my imagination. The welcome party was a bit intense but fun. I wanted to keep chatting with my friends, but it was time for my part-time job, so I excused myself and left the room. It's a sad reality that I don't have the luxury of leisurely enjoying my youth. As a side note, I work at a liquor store. Even on hot summer days and cold winter days, I drive my motorcycle to deliver liquor. I don't mind the physical labor, which suits me fine. It's been a while since Ms. Bartlett joined the club. Being a college student is busy, and I hadn't seen Ms. Bartlett since the day of the welcome party. But then a day came when our schedules happened to align. That day, we were scheduled to take care of cows. I worked skillfully as I'm used to it. A woman in the group asked me for help because they were short-handed that day. There aren't many girls today, can we ask for your help? It wasn't a particularly hard job, so I agreed to help. While I was concentrating on my work, I felt someone approaching. When I turned around, there stood Ms. Bartlett, all by herself. You're quite good at it, Ms. Bartlett. I find it a little confusing because we have the same last name. Just call me Kev, everyone else does. People often call me like that. All right, I'll call you Kevin then. Saying this, she heads towards where the hay is stacked and takes a full dive into it. With her whole body sinking into the hay, she ends up covered in it from head to toe, including her beautiful hair. Ms. Bartlett, caught off guard by her sudden action, she starts to explain to me. I used to play like this at a friend's house when I was little. I like the smell of hay. Come to think of it, Emma used to love diving into the hay too. We had lost touch, but we made a promise that we'd meet again someday. Although I had forgotten about it, I also made a promise with her. Indeed, we made a childhood promise while both of us were crying our eyes out. Come to think of it, Ms. Bartlett does remind me a bit of Emma. The boy's name was Kevin. As she said this and looks at me, her eyes are reminiscent of the girl I used to play with back in the day. No, it's not just a resemblance, it's her. Are you Emma? It took you too long to realize. I recognized you the moment we met. I didn't recognize you because you've become so beautiful. Facing Emma's accusatory gaze, I couldn't help but speak the truth. You've become good at flattery. She twirled her hair with her fingertips, perhaps out of embarrassment. It's a habit of hers since long ago. We ended up in the same university. Although Emma's dad had wanted her to work in his company, she had always desired to work with animals. I won't approve it. Her father wasn't supportive, but her mother encouraged her. And she's living on her own. Her mom sent her some money for living expenses, but she works part-time to avoid depending on them as much as possible. Even though she's graceful and intelligent, she doesn't put on airs. Perhaps that's because she's been through some struggles. We began visiting each other's houses as we found common ground and became closer. At first, we were just friends, but we could no longer interact in the same innocent way we did as children. That's because we both had feelings for each other that we couldn't ignore. One day, when she came to visit my apartment, I gathered up my courage and asked her to go out with me. "I'm happiest when I'm with you, Emma. Will you be my girlfriend?" I spoke honestly, without embellishments. Her reply came instantly. "I want to be with you too, Kevin. Let's spend more time together." Overjoyed, I hugged her immediately. "Let's spend happy time together." And so we officially started dating. Our relationship proceeded smoothly from there. We were living together, discussing our future and all. Speaking of which, I had decided to take over my family business, and I had shared this with her. Emma expressed her intent to walk this life with me, even offering to help me with the business. I was overjoyed and immediately informed my parents about it. "It's no wonder to think you would end up with Emma. You two have been close since you were kids. But what about marriage?" While they were happy about us dating, they seemed keen to know what lay beyond. When I told them that Emma and I were discussing our future, they encouraged us, saying they had no objections as long as we were happy with our decisions. And so, my parents approved our relationship, but it wasn't the same with Emma's parents. Emma had kept her relationship with me a secret from her parents. She knew her father would definitely be against it even if her mother approved it. That's why she had only subtly hinted about having a boyfriend. As our university graduation approached, I invited her to my apartment and officially proposed to her. "Will you marry me?" I was sure she would accept. However, my voice trembled with nerves. But then she held my hand, smiling gently. "I may not be perfect, but please bear with me." And thus, we pledged to get married. But we couldn't keep it secret to her parents anymore. I asked Emma to arrange a meeting with her parents. "Let's meet them properly and get their approval for our marriage. I think they will understand if we explain it to them." We didn't dwell on the negatives and believed in our future together. The day and place for the meet and greet were set soon. Before the meeting, we both graduated from university and started working. We moved from our apartment to my parents' home. "Looking forward to being part of your family." Her sincere greeting made my parents welcome her with open smiles. The dairy farm work starts early in the morning. I'm not much of a morning person, but Emma wakes up even earlier than me and starts working. She also does household chores, which honestly makes me feel a bit inadequate at times. "You're going to be under Emma's thumb in the future, you know." My mother's words weren't sounding like a joke anymore. Amid these days, the day to meet her parents came. However, as the sun rose, an unexpected issue occurred. The two cows started to give birth at the same time. The situation turned far from being able to go to meet Emma's parents. The birth of newborn calves can be risky. There is a possibility of accidents that would lead to their death. There were several things to be cautious of, such as dystocia or uterine torsion. Until a mother cow gave birth to a calf, we have to assist a delivery. The pain seemed to intensify for both, making my heart ache seeing them in agony. Emma was diligently checking if the mother cow developed mastitis or milk fever by milking them. Typically, it's said that the process from labor to birth takes about 10 hours. Amidst the tense time, around 10 o'clock, the head of a calf appeared. We carefully pulled it out of the birth canal. It didn't seem likely to be a difficult birth. The delivery went smoothly, and one calf was safely born. Although Emma was tearful with the miracle of life, she had no time to be dazed. A newborn calf needs to be fed colostrum as soon as possible, otherwise, its immunity would weaken, making it susceptible to diseases like diarrhea or pneumonia. While we were tending like this, the other cow had also given birth safely with my parents' help. Just as we were heaving a sigh of relief, my mother reminded us of something we had forgotten. "We'll handle the rest here, you two should head to your appointment." It was nearly 11 o'clock. We would certainly be late for the meeting at the set place. We'd informed Emma's parents that Emma would be late, but we still had to rush. Frantically getting ready, we jumped into the nearby pickup truck. Then, while focusing on safe driving, we hurried to our destination. Somehow, we managed to reach our destination about an hour later than the promised time. As we rushed to enter, a man with an angry look came towards us. Although I hadn't seen him in a while and he looked somewhat older, I was sure that was my uncle. He was stared at our pickup truck with a suspicious gaze. Realizing that I, standing next to Emma, was her fiancé, he started yelling at us out of the blue. "You are too late. I'll not approve my daughter get married to a po person like you who can't even be on time. Get out of here." But Dad, we couldn't help it. We rushed here as fast as we could. "I don't care. People who are late are no good. It's too late now. I'm going home." He pushed us aside and stormed out. I couldn't help but call out to stop him. "Please wait, Uncle." "What?" He stopped and turned to look at me. Upon seeing my face, he turned pale. "Are you Kevin? It's been a long time, Uncle. I'm sorry for being late. Can you please wait before you leave?" But he ignored my words and looked at Emma. "Do you want to marry him and work at the dairy farm? You would find plenty of good men if you worked at my company. I want to be with him. I want you to approve our marriage." Even Emma begged him. He adamantly refused to approve. "No, I won't approve you to marry him." With that, he hastily got into his car and drove off. Emma's mother, who arrived later, apologized to me with a remorseful look. "I'm sorry, please don't take it personally. He's just worried about his daughter's future in his own way." All I could do was nod. Our marriage wasn't approved, and even after trying to discuss it, we hit a brick wall. We couldn't even have a chance to meet him. Then one night, suddenly, a scream echoed through our property late at night. I thought it was a burglar because the voice was unfamiliar. I hurriedly turned on the lights around the house and rushed towards the sound. There was a man crouching there. When I shone my flashlight at him, I saw that it was my uncle, and this was the barn where we kept our cows. I wondered why he was here, and why were the cows so agitated. Since the cows were about to charge at him, the whole family rushed out to rescue him. He seemed to have severely injured his back, and we hurriedly called for an ambulance. We provided first aid while waiting for the ambulance. Then, he was taken away in the ambulance. The police were also notified about the incident, and it became a major issue. It turned out that my uncle had tried to set free our livestock, thinking that our financial situation would get worse without the livestock, and Emma would return home to him. However, he didn't know how to handle the cows, so he had made them angry and ended up getting charged at his back. That's the whole story. The incident made the local news, completely ruining his reputation. His company also lost trust, and he was forced to step down as CEO. Emma and her mom apologized to me several times. I, too, felt some responsibility for the situation, so I couldn't be too mad at them. My uncle was arrested and went to trial, but was released on bail. But he had no place left to go, after having had free rein as CEO. The company is now working to regain trust, and it seems they are trying to move away from the dictatorial management of the past. The eldest daughter seems to be leading this effort. My uncle would have no place at home either and keep feeling uncomfortable. He also came to our house to apologize us. In just a few days, he had aged significantly as if he is a different person. His back injury had left him needing a walking stick, making him look like an old man. I'm truly sorry for what I did. I have no right to say anything about your marriage anymore. Seeing her father bowing deeply at the entrance of our house, Emma also bowed her head. I told him that I no longer held any grudges, and then I made a request. Then, please attend our wedding as a guest to celebrate your daughter's marriage. My uncle, who had lost his status and honor and was now in shambles, broke down crying. Then, on the wedding day, we were blessed by many guests and finally became husband and wife. Of course, both our parents were also there to bless us. It's like a dream to see this day come. Yeah, let's walk together as a married couple from now on. In that moment, we felt like we were embraced by the warm sun, amidst the applause.